Good noon, everybody. It's right at noon. So good noon. I'm just waiting for the presentation to come up. Yep. It's great to be here, and Anand. It's like it's tough. It's a tough act to follow, right? After what Anand shared, some fantastic insights, from the report that he just shared. Um, there are going to be some common elements in terms of the content that I'm going to share with you as well. But of course, the topic that I've chosen is to really talk about this impending wave of agentic retail, and I'm sure you're hearing AI and agents wherever you go, and any tech customers or companies that you talk to. This is all they can really talk about. But we truly are excited about it. I think it has tremendous potential. But the one thing that I want to talk about, or at least highlight upfront, is we definitely our philosophy, we believe that it is something that can augment humans, right? We don't look at this as a technology that is going to replace humans. And there are definitely some legitimate fears in the industry, not just in retail but in other industries as well. But retail, as you know, is really a very people centric and a people dependent industry, right? We people are the sort of the lifeblood, right? Without people, probably this industry would not exist. And therefore it's important to understand how AI can actually augment the power of human capabilities and take them even further, right? I'm trying to move this one second. Yeah. Just a safe harbor, please make your purchasing decisions based on what's currently available in the market. Can I get a different clicker? Or yeah. So I wanted to start out with the good news, right? I mean, the news media is really awash with some phenomenal news coming in early. It's almost like Diwali is already here for retailers. Everybody benefiting from the GST tax cuts. And I believe that pretty much every other retailer that I have spoken to, they are passing down the benefits to the end consumers. But also, I think there is still some time to go before it really settles down and ensure that the benefits trickle down. But to me, what it really means is that I think retail is at a very interesting sort of a crossroads as far as our country is concerned. There is obviously tremendous amount of demand coming in from the industry before Diwali, back on the the some of the tax cuts we're seeing. But also I think from a technology standpoint, we feel like there are lots of challenges ahead, right? And Anand touched upon some of that in the report. It's the adoption and the mindset that I think really needs to change, right? It's about, yes, evaluating current benefits, but also is about looking at the future and saying what can I do to invest in the future, right? um, so we see, globally speaking, we see some of these, trends emerging. This whole thing about, personalization and treating me as an individual, right? Knowing my needs and preferences is something that I think has been a journey that is, began many years ago, and we will continue to, drive in that fashion. And I think, AI is only going to help and accelerate that journey towards this holy grail of, being able to recognize everybody, right? We talked about agents. Of course, this whole presentation is about agents. I will spend a little more time on it and how it can boost, employee productivity as well as improve customer satisfaction and delight. Um, and this whole concept of this omni-channel retailing again, which is something that I think we've talked about for quite some time. We like to call it unified commerce, right? Any touch point ultimately which becomes a sales touch point from a customer standpoint, there is an effort underway with leading retailers to sort of unify all of that, so that I really recognize that customer from that standpoint, and then treat them in a very consistent manner no matter what touch point they are interacting with, right? So this is again important. Of course, globally, and even of course India, we are in the middle of this whole tariff back and forth with the US. It has large ramifications. But I think the good news is that the growth is pretty robust within the country, and consumption is really sort of trending in the right direction. So I feel like at least the local retail industry will be in good shape, right? And ultimately, I think some things never go out of style, right? Customers will always gravitate towards brands and retailers who deliver consistent service. They keep prices low, and are able to drive that quality, right? I mean, of course, this is a very tough balancing act, but ultimately, we've seen, over many years that, retailers who get this formula right, are likely to emerge, winners, right? Um, and of course, I'm putting this in a sort of a lighter vein because this AI is really taken over the sort of the mindset of people, right? There is no discussion that goes by without, it gravitating towards, AI and what it can do for an organization. But you also hear these reports, and there was a well published or a publicized report which came out from MIT Sloan a few weeks ago, which said that 95% of these, AI projects are basically ending up in failure, right? But and that's the sort of a headline which is quite alarming, because if you look at the number of investments that's happening in AI, it is just going through the roof, right? So why are we not seeing returns is the sort of the question to ask. But if you actually look at the report and read between the lines and go through the report in its entirety, what it does tell you is that, look, it's about having proper focus, right? It's not using this as a Swiss knife and saying, what, let me throw this AI at it and solve a problem, right? It's more like I have this hammer and looking for a nail, but it should really be the reverse. You got to really think through what problem do you want to address, and is AI even the right tool to address and resolve the problem? What success metrics are you putting in place? What do you expect? What sort of benefit do you expect from that investment? I think some of this has to really be thought through before you embark on some of these projects. But definitely that experimentation mindset is required. And you should know that not every project is going to be a success, right? You should take some of those losses early on, but learn the lessons from that, and make hopefully don't make the same mistakes again, right? So we feel that there are different areas where, again, AI is already starting to make a difference, whether it in terms of discovery of products, or in terms of reducing transaction time. Of course, customer service is a big area that a lot of our customers have invested money in AI. And lastly, of course, loyalty, right? Uh, I just want to point your attention to the two sort of the screenshots on the right hand side. This is actually from a mobile app of a beauty and cosmetics retailer called Faces, which is based out of Dubai, and they have a fairly big presence in the Middle East. This is an app that was built on Salesforce, and this is an agentic application which is being used for making product recommendations, right? So think of it like a digital concierge that's available to you at your fingertips on a mobile app, easily accessible in an interface that's very familiar to you. And again, this is a conversation or a chatbot based kind of an interface. But what you have behind is a sort of an agent, which is sort of the brains behind the application, right? So I'm not sure whether you can read it from the back, but you just kind of describe what you're looking for. Saying I'm looking for a woody and strong fragrance. Can you recommend a perfume that I want to give to my wife, or whatever it is, right? So you see a detailed description coming. This description, of course, this response is really based on the context that the retailer already has about you, right? They probably have a loyalty program. They know your preferences. They understand your likes and dislikes, and they look at your shopping history and your behavior. Based on all of that, it can basically look at what is available and make that tailored recommendation. Right? So this is almost like if you go into a store, you would probably talk to an associate, and if that associate is an expert in perfumes, which is again very difficult to find, and keep it scalable across all your 100 stores or whatever you have. But this is a great way for employing technology to deliver that level of tailorization and customization that ultimately results in a satisfied customer, right? We see a lot of other names there. All of these names are the names of retailers who are doing projects and pilots with us, and everybody is really looking at it from the standpoint of either delivering a better level of service, or in terms of being that trusted advisor to those customers, and provide a better level of service when they come into the stores, right? Now, how do you deliver this, right? And, we look at some key capabilities, and if you start reading it from left to right, it's almost like a sort of a roadmap that we recommend, right? If you are familiar with the last four stages or three, it's really the paths of a customer journey, right? You build awareness, you engage with them, you nurture that relationship, you convert them into a customer, and then you continue to engage with them so that you convert them into a lifelong advocate of your brand, right? But how do you begin all of that, without a data foundation? We really stress on this, right? You can't really have an AI strategy without having a data strategy. So sometimes, this is a little bit of that unsexy, sort of dirty work that unfortunately needs to get done, right? You really need to have clean contextual data that is reliable, that is fresh and current, and all of those things are necessary, and that will make your AI investments even go further, right? Because you are going to get real um, answers that have a high amount of accuracy, that context that I was talking about. And this is like, again, looking at your own enterprise data, which I'm sure is something that you have access to, but is it all in a shape and format and a structure that AI tools can leverage them, right? So we believe that there is tremendous opportunity across that entire customer journey, but definitely want to emphasize the point about having a robust data foundation before you embark on this, right? Yes, there are other use cases where you may not need a lot of data. For example, if you want to create a content for an ad or a creative or something, that is something that I think today's LLMs are really good at doing. But when it comes to more enterprise specific use cases like customer service and loyalty and so on and so forth, you really need high quality data to be successful. Um, and you can see that the value is very clear, right? A lot of our surveys, and of course surveys from other vendors and consulting companies, are showing that there is tremendous amount of value, right? Despite the fact that there are these fear mongering reports that are out there, but if you're able to really go down to that level of detailing and make the investments in the right areas, and you have the right expectations of what you want to get out of it, and you have the data in place, then we definitely are seeing tremendously positive results, right? I'm going to run a little bit of a demo which will take about a minute or so, but this will give you an idea in terms of how can you play the video for me, please?
Yeah. Not every shopper knows exactly what they want when they visit your storefront. Take Dan, an outdoor enthusiast looking for new hiking shoes. He feels stuck, aimlessly scrolling through pages and struggling to narrow down the options. In store, a skilled associate would guide him along by suggesting products and answering questions. But online, Dan is left to figure it out alone, second guessing his choices and close to abandoning his search. Enter Agentic Commerce, powered by Agentforce, guiding every shopper to their perfect purchase. Dan starts a conversation with Agentforce. He doesn't have to leave the chat or switch between tabs. Agentforce instantly pulls in top picks displayed in a compact carousel. Fast, focused, and easy to compare. Dan finds a pair he likes with detailed styles and sizing right in the chat. And it gets better. He can add it to his cart without ever leaving the conversation. Dan's nervous about the shoes fitting. He makes sure that he can return them if he orders the wrong size. Agentforce replies without Dan having to search for the answer, boosting Dan's confidence and leaving no room for an abandoned cart. Dan was going to head to the mall to find new trail running shoes, but he now has a new option. Thanks to a smooth experience with Agentforce, he tries his luck here. Agentforce offers up its top recommendations. Now, this isn't just another interaction. This is NTO's chance at winning Dan's loyalty, driving a sale that otherwise would have been lost to a physical store. But before he buys, Dan needs to know, will the shoes support him through challenging terrain? The type of question you'd ask a knowledgeable sales associate. Agentforce was built for this. It replies with relevant product information and even anticipates other questions Dan may have. Dan's sold. He gets a second pair and doubles his basket size, a direct result of the personalized guidance from Agentforce. Now it's time for checkout. No redirects, no separate checkout page. Dan pays with Apple Pay and he's done in seconds. A frictionless purchase right there in the chat. And that's how Agentforce turns a conversation into a conversion. The future of shopping is here. Faster product discovery, larger basket sizes, and deeper customer loyalty. Welcome to Agentic Commerce.
Can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah. Yeah, so I think this is something that it looks like almost we've been working towards this sort of eventuality and this whole phase that we are going through in the world of technology, right? We've had a platform, an enormously successful platform for many years. working with, retailers, around the world. But if you look at it, the sort of the capabilities that we have kept adding has really led to this sort of, convergence of, omni-channel, digital, the use of mobile apps, and then, that, really embedded with, agentic intelligence, and also having that, robust, data foundation. So all the ingredients for you to be successful is something that I think, we've got in our portfolio, so to speak, and that is, seeing, great results, in the market for us. Um, so just to wrap up this presentation, I know I didn't have a lot of time. Just want to leave you with this, a comprehensive, platform that starts with a highly scalable, reliable infrastructure. On that is the data cloud. And the importance of that is something that I really cannot sort of, stress enough, right? Which is really having that contextual data for your enterprise, right? And having, like, for example, when you look at the return policy, the question asked, the return policy is not something that's going to be available on the internet, right? It is your return policy. What are your shipping charges? So these are very, pertinent information that is available only to you. And therefore, having that repository, which is of high quality, is going to be very important as a foundation. And then, you have all the apps, and then finally the agentic layer, which can interact with your customers, and of course, with employees. So, I'll just leave it at that. Uh, the last point I want to stress is that, you know, we talk a lot about technology, but I think sometimes, we sort of overlook the importance of having, somebody like a customer success on your side, right? Technology is not going to, sort of run itself. You need people to do it for you. We have, enormous number of partners that we work with, but our own ecosystem, has a very robust, customer success division that will, work hand in hand with our customers, and, ensure that, you realize, value from those investments. That's about it from my perspective, and, thank you all for your time. Thank you.